Good day, everyone, and welcome back to the Wild. We are back, and it is the fourth Sunday in Lent. In the Gospel today, they skip over two parables and then give us the third. All three of the parables are about finding something that was lost. A coin, in one case, a sheep, which are things owned. Both of those are things owned. And the final one, the one we're going to hear today, is the parable of the prodigal son, the son who returns. Here is the Gospel according to Luke, chapters 15, verses 1 through 3, and 11b through 32. All the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to Jesus, and the Pharisees and scribes were grumbling, saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." So Jesus told them this parable. There was a man who had two sons. The younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me." So he divided his property between them. A few days later, the young son gathered all he had and traveled to a distant country. And there he squandered his property in dissolute living. When he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and he hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He would gladly have filled himself with the pods that the pigs were eating, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough to spare? But here I am dying of hunger. I will get up, go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands.' So he set off and went to his father. But while he was still far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his slaves, 'Quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. And get the fatted calf and kill it, and let's eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate. Now the eldest son was in the field, and when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. And he called out to one of the slaves and asked what was going on. He replied, 'Your brother has come back, and your father has killed the fatted calf,' because he had got him back safe and sound. Then he became angry and refused to go in. His father came out and began to plead with him, but he answered his father, 'Listen, for all these years I have been working like a slave for you, and I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you have never given me even a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came back who devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him.' Then the father said to him, 'Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice because your brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found.'" Now, I've preached on the prodigal son many times. Just in this, when we do the weekly services during the year, but also in recovery. Being in recovery, I often participated in, sometimes ran, 12-step Eucharists, a practice I first experienced when I was in seminary. And it seems that this gospel was often the one that they chose to include. The lost son had hit rock bottom. And he had to hit rock bottom before he'd come home. And the father, in the parable, God, would celebrate. And during the service, we would sing Amazing Grace. I once was lost and now I'm found. The scripture is a great testament to being accepted by God, no matter our flaws. All we need to do is turn back to him. Where the Son thought he was unworthy, the Father opened his arms. I once, though, had a different experience with this scripture. I was working as a chaplain in the VA, and one of the patients was there, had been estranged from his family for years and years, decades, I think. And he'd come from a very religious family and had left them and their church for most of his adult life. When I shared this story with him, he had never heard it, although he had grown up in the Bible Belt. It spoke to him in a profound way. I remember he wept. God would welcome him home. There was hope for him. He reached out to his relatives and they welcomed him back. These scriptures so often reflect common experiences in our lives, can be lessons for us. This New Testament, as it is known, is a gospel of reconciliation, of forgiveness, of restoring broken people and relationships. It is truly good news. Today, though, I'd like to talk not about the parables, but about the first line of the reading, the opening of the chapter, the setup verse. The reason Jesus shared the three parables, of which the prodigal son was the last. All the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to Jesus. And the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with him." Wow. All the cast out people, the unclean people, are coming to see Jesus. And the authorities of the day grumbled at this and pointed disparagingly at Jesus, saying, "He welcomes sinners and eats with them." Jesus broke tradition. We don't do that. Broke Jewish laws by eating with unclean people, notorious people, hated people in some cases. He ate with them, and that those society, and not, he didn't eat with those who society considered righteous. And when I hear this, and then think of the times people of faith eschew those who do not follow their beliefs, when people reject others for who they are and what they do, when people of faith exclude others, I do not see reconciliation. I do not see welcoming and acceptance. I do not see people making distinctions between the sin and the sinner, though they say they do. I just weep and see judgment. I see division where none need occur. I watched a film last night with my wife, and it's Belfast, came out this last year, about a kid growing up during the Troubles in Northern Ireland, where one sect of Christians was rioting against another. Is this what Jesus taught or did? No. Jesus washed the feet of Judas. He participated in Eucharist, the first, with all his disciples, all of whom would run away when he was arrested. Peter denying him 3 times publicly, and Judas turning him over to the high priests. Man, All the others ran in fear. Yet Jesus, who knew this was to come, washed all their feet. Jesus broke bread with them. Jesus forgave and loved them all. Now we wonder often how God is speaking to us these days, when prophets are few and far between, when many speak, myself included, on this crowded internet. How do we tell what is of God? Ask yourself that. Ask yourself, does this bring people together? Does it heal and not injure? Is peace the fruit it bears? Is love understanding? If so, the channel is at least echoing some of the truth of God. The gospel, as I've said many times, in many ways, is a message of God's love for us, for all creation. God rejoices when we are reconciled to each other, to loved ones, to God herself. If you hear a word which doesn't echo these sentiments, question where it is from. Question the motivation for its delivery. Jesus sat down and ate with sinners. He would sit down and eat with all of you and me, unless perhaps we say we're sinless. Jesus was the epitome of a being of wild, abundant love. A voice which called out in the wilderness, telling us to return to the one who made us. Come home, sinner. Come home. Amen. As usual, if you've found this homily beneficial, make sure to like and subscribe by clicking on the subscribe button below. Tell your friends and acquaintances about this channel. Leave a comment if you want, and come on back to this channel in the wilderness. I remain yours in faith, and blessings to you all.